Hi, I'm Linda from English Learning Mind Map. Today, we will learn about Iran War. Iran War. The Iran War can escalate tensions and reshape alliances across an already fragile region. In simple terms, the conflict can make relations worse and change who cooperates with whom. Diplomacy. Within the Iran War, diplomacy tries to broker dialogue and defuse crises before violence widens further. Put simply, diplomacy means talking, mediating, and calming dangerous situations. Negotiations. Under diplomacy, negotiations attempt to reconcile positions and draft terms that both sides might accept. In easier words, negotiations are talks that try to reduce disagreement and write possible agreements. Ceasefire. From negotiations, a ceasefire may suspend fighting and stabilize fronts for a limited time. Simply said, a ceasefire pauses the shooting and helps the battlefield become less chaotic. Sanctions. Also under diplomacy, sanctions can exert pressure and curtail trade in order to influence decisions. In simple language, sanctions try to force change by restricting business and economic activity. Compliance. Because sanctions only matter when they are followed, compliance must monitor adherence and verify conduct. That means compliance checks whether rules are obeyed and whether promises are actually kept. Military strategy. Another branch of the Iran War is military strategy, which must deploy forces and consolidate positions on the ground. More simply, military strategy is about sending troops and making positions stronger. Deterrence. Inside military strategy, deterrence tries to signal resolve and discourage attacks from an opponent. In plain words, deterrence shows strength so the other side thinks twice before striking. Retaliation. When deterrence fails, retaliation may launch reprisals and reassert dominance after a strike. Simply put, retaliation means hitting back to show power and answer an attack. Logistics. Alongside combat planning in military strategy, logistics must sustain operations and allocate material efficiently. In easier terms, logistics keeps the army supplied with the people, fuel, and equipment it needs. Supply lines. To make logistics work, supply lines must transport provisions and maintain access to the front. In simple words, supply lines are the routes that carry food, fuel, and weapons where they are needed. Humanitarian impact. Beyond strategy, the Iran War creates humanitarian impact as it can disrupt livelihoods and intensify suffering among civilians. Put simply, humanitarian impact means ordinary people lose safety, stability, and basic support. Displacement. Within humanitarian impact, displacement can uproot communities and scatter families far from their homes. In clear terms, displacement forces people to leave the places where they used to live. Refugees. As a result of displacement, refugees may seek asylum and cross borders in search of safety. Simply explained, refugees flee the conflict and ask another country for protection. Infrastructure. Another side of humanitarian impact is infrastructure, because attacks can damage facilities and interrupt services that civilians depend on. In basic terms, infrastructure includes roads, hospitals, and power systems that stop working properly. Reconstruction. After infrastructure has been damaged, reconstruction must restore systems and rebuild capacity over time. In simpler language, reconstruction repairs what was destroyed and helps services function again. Global response. Outside the region, the Iran War provokes a global response as states condemn violence and coordinate aid. Put simply, global response is how the wider world reacts through statements, pressure, and assistance. United Nations. Within the global response, the United Nations can convene sessions and mediate disputes between actors. In easier words, the United Nations brings countries together to discuss the crisis and push for solutions. Resolutions. Through the United Nations, resolutions may formalize demands and urge restraint from the parties involved. Simply said, resolutions are official texts that state what the international community wants to happen. Energy markets. Another part of the global response involves energy markets, which can jolt supplies and destabilize trade when conflict spreads. In simple terms, energy markets react nervously because war can threaten fuel production and transport. Oil prices. Because energy markets are sensitive, oil prices may surge abruptly and reflect uncertainty almost immediately. In plain language, oil prices often rise fast when traders fear supply problems. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more English lessons.